For 500 years, Alara stood alone on the edge of a vast desert. The hot sun beat down on the endless sands and broken stones. Around her, the wind whispered secrets from a forgotten time. But Alara did not move from her post. She had a promise to keep. Deep beneath the ground, hidden under layers of rock and dust, lay the body of Krylon. Krylon was a warrior from a time long past, a time when humans fought a terrible war against alien invaders. He had been placed in a deep sleep, frozen in time, waiting for the day he would be needed again. Alara did not remember how long she had been there. Her memory was like a broken mirror with pieces missing. But she knew one thing clearly. She was the guardian of Krylon's body. For centuries, she had watched over him, protecting him from danger. The desert was quiet now, but Alara felt a change in the air. Something was coming. Every day Alara climbed down the stone steps that led to the hidden chamber. The walls were covered in strange markings, old stories written in a language no one spoke anymore. In the center of the chamber was a large, glowing pod. Inside, Krylon's body lay still, his face calm but cold. Alara touched the glass with a gentle hand. "Please stay safe," she whispered, her voice soft and steady. She remembered the last time Krylon had fought. The war had been brutal. The Zollar, an alien race, had come to their world with weapons of power and armies that seemed endless. Krylon was a hero, chosen to protect humanity, but he had been badly wounded in battle. The only way to save him was to put him into the deep sleep until a day came when he could fight again. Alara did not know if that day would ever come. But she waited. Years passed like this. The sun rose and set. Storms blew sand over the ruins. But Alara never left her post. She repaired the chamber when it broke. She hunted for food in the desert. She studied the stars at night, searching for signs of the Zollar. Sometimes she heard strange noises far away, metal scraping, distant engines, or the quiet hum of ships. But the desert swallowed those sounds, and no one came close. Alara's body had grown tired over the centuries. Her skin was worn and cracked from the sun. Her hair was silver like the moonlight, but her spirit was strong. She believed in her mission. One evening, as the twin suns set behind the mountains, Alara climbed back to the surface. The sky was a deep orange and red, fading into purple. She looked toward the horizon, where the desert met the stars. Suddenly, a shadow moved. Alara's heart quickened. She raised her hand to shield her eyes. There, far away but clear, were shapes against the sky, ships, larger than any she had ever seen. The ships did not belong to humans. Her breath caught in her throat. The Zollar had returned. For the first time in centuries, fear touched Alara's mind, but she pushed it aside. She had a duty to protect Krylon. If the Zollar wanted him, she would not let them have him. Alara hurried down the steps to the chamber. She placed her hand on the pod's glass again. "Krylon," she said, voice trembling slightly. "Please stay safe. I will protect you." "No. One will take you from here." The chamber's lights flickered, a sign the power was weakening. Alara had always maintained the systems, but after 500 years the ancient machines were starting to fail. She rushed to the control panel, pressing buttons and pulling levers. The pod's glow steadied. Outside, the sound of engines grew louder. The ships were landing. Alara knew time was short. She gathered supplies, a small weapon, some food, water, and secured the chamber door. She checked every lock and sensor. Everything had to be perfect. Then she sat down on the cold floor beside Krylon's pod. Her mind filled with questions. Would Krylon remember who he was if he woke up? Would he still be the warrior humanity needed? Or was he just a man frozen in time? She had waited so long to find out. The chamber grew darker as the sun disappeared. The only light came from the pod and the blinking lights of the control panel. Outside, the desert was quiet again, but Alara knew the silence was fragile. Soon, it would break. For now, she whispered one last promise. I will not let them take you. Not now. Not ever. Ilara closed her eyes, preparing for the night ahead. The fate of two worlds rested on her shoulders, and she was ready to fight. The cold night stretched over the desert as Ilara stayed beside the glowing pod. Outside, the stars blinked quietly, but her mind was far from calm. The shadow of the approaching ships lingered in her thoughts like a storm waiting to break. Ilara sat still, her hand resting gently on the glass. Inside, Krylan's body lay silent, peaceful. She wondered what memories slept inside him, locked away in the deep sleep that had lasted 500 years. Suddenly, her eyes closed and a wave of images flooded her mind. Memories not her own, but somehow hers too. She saw a great battle in the sky, ships fighting, explosions lighting the dark space. She heard the cries of warriors, the clash of weapons, and the desperate hope in their voices. She saw Krylan fighting fiercely, leading his people with courage and strength. His face was determined but tired. Then she saw the moment he fell, wounded and bleeding, fighting to protect what was left of humanity. The memory faded as quickly as it came. Ilara opened her eyes, breathing hard. She did not understand why these visions came to her now. Was it a warning? A call to action? The ancient pod beside her hummed softly. Its light pulsed like a heartbeat. Ilara knew Krylan's body was still alive, waiting for the right moment to wake. She stood and walked to the chamber's control panel. Her fingers moved quickly over the buttons, checking the systems. The power was stable, but weakening. Pod's technology was old, older than any machine she had ever seen. Outside, the quiet was broken by distant sounds, the rumble of engines and the soft thud of ships landing. Ilara's heart raced. The Zalur were here. The alien invaders had returned after centuries of silence. Their war machines had changed, becoming faster and stronger. Ilara had heard stories from travelers long ago, stories about how the Zalur never truly left. They were patient hunters waiting for the right moment to strike again. Ilara's thoughts turned to the planet's other survivors. Was she truly alone? Had anyone else escaped the Zalur's destruction? She had searched the desert many times, but found only ruins and empty skies. The thought of waking Krylan grew stronger. If he was humanity's last hope, then he could not stay asleep any longer. But how could she wake a man frozen in time? What if he could not remember his past? What if he was no longer the warrior they needed? Her doubts pressed on her like the desert's heat. But Ilara was not one to give up. She walked to a small table where old data pads lay, covered in dust. With careful hands, she wiped the screen and activated the device. It showed a map of the stars, planets, and battle zones from long ago. She traced the paths of ships, looking for clues. Suddenly, a new signal appeared on the map. A faint but clear sign of movement. The Zalur ships were not just landing, they were searching. Ilara's eyes narrowed. If the invaders wanted Krylan, they would find him soon. She returned to the pod, placing her hand once again on the glass. "I will protect you," she said softly. "But if I have to wake you, be ready." The pod's light flickered and a soft hum filled the chamber. Ilara knew the time was coming. That night she tried to sleep but could not. Her mind replayed the memories of the war. She remembered a time when humans reached for the stars, when they fought not just for survival but for freedom. She dreamed of Krylan leading armies, his voice strong and clear, inspiring hope. When dawn broke, Ilara climbed to the surface again. The desert was alive with movement. Strange machines rolled over the sand, searching, probing. Ilara moved carefully through the ruins, staying hidden. She saw the Zalur soldiers, tall, armored figures with sharp eyes. They were looking for something, but they had not found the chamber. Ilara felt a flicker of hope. She returned to the chamber quickly, heart pounding. The time to wait was ending. She prepared the systems to awaken Krylan. The pod was designed to bring him back slowly to help his body adjust. Ilara had practiced the steps many times, but never dared to try them until now. Her hands shook as she activated the controls. Lights flashed and the pod's surface became warm. Inside, Krylan's chest began to rise and fall. Ilara stepped back, watching closely. Slowly, his eyes opened, clear, sharp, and full of life. Krylan looked around, confused but alert. "Ilara," he said, his voice deep and steady. "Where am I? What happened?" Ilara smiled with relief. "You were asleep for 500 years. The Zalor have returned. They want you." Krylan sat up, feeling the weight of time on his body. He touched his face, remembering the battle, the pain and the promise he made. "I must protect humanity," he said. "Is it time?" Ilara nodded. "Yes, they are here." Together they looked toward the chamber's entrance, where the sounds of the approaching enemy grew louder. Krylan stood, his strength returning with every breath. He was a man of the past, but also the future, a symbol of hope and power. Ilara and Krylan prepared to face the new threat. The war was not over. It had only just begun. The heavy door of the chamber sealed shut behind Krylan as he took his first steps in 500 years. The air inside felt tight and charged with energy, as if the ancient walls themselves held their breath. Ilara watched him carefully. He was waking up, but the memories of his past were still blurred like fog. "Ilara," Krylan said, his voice strong but filled with questions. "Tell me everything. What happened after I was put to sleep? Why have I been kept here so long?" Ilara's eyes met his. "You were placed in stasis to save you from death. The war with the Zalor was lost, but your body was protected so you could fight again one day. I was chosen to guard you. For centuries I have waited." Krylan's gaze dropped to his hands. "And now they are here again?" Ilara nodded. "Yes. The Zalor ships have landed. They are searching for you. They want to capture or destroy you." Krylan clenched his fists. "Then we must move. I cannot fight if I remain trapped here." Ilara stepped forward, her face serious. "It's not safe outside. The Zalor patrol the ruins and their numbers have grown. But I have a plan. There is a hidden message left by your allies, an old beacon with data that can help us." Krylan's eyes brightened with hope. "Show me." Ilara led him through the twisting corridors of the underground chamber. The walls were covered with faded symbols and worn carvings that told stories of ancient battles and heroic deeds. Krylan paused at each, his memories flickering but incomplete. They arrived at a small room filled with old machines and glowing screens. Ilara touched a panel, and a holographic map appeared. It showed the planet's surface, marked with red, dots representing enemy forces and a blinking blue dot, an old resistance base far beyond the desert. "This is where your allies left their last message," Ilara explained. "If we reach the base, we can access more information about the Zalor's plans and maybe find help." Krylan studied the map. "Then we must move quickly. Time is not on our side." As they prepared to leave, Ilara handed Krylan a simple weapon, a compact energy blade, sharp and light. "It's not much, but it can protect you." Krylan accepted it gratefully. "Thank you. After so long, I am glad to fight once more." They climbed the stone stairs to the surface. The desert sun was harsh, but Krylan's body was strong, fueled by ancient technology and his warrior spirit. He looked at the horizon, where strange ships and alien figures moved like shadows. Ilara scanned the skies, then turned to Krylan. "They are searching for this chamber. We cannot stay here." The ground trembled beneath their feet as distant explosions echoed. The Zalor were already attacking nearby ruins, destroying any resistance they found. Ilara took Krylan's arm gently. "We have to be careful. The desert is vast, but it holds dangers." Krylan nodded, feeling the weight of his long sleep but ready to face what came. "Lead the way." As they traveled, Ilara told Krylan about the years she had spent watching, hiding, and surviving. She spoke of how humanity had fallen, but had never given up hope. Small groups of survivors moved in secret, waiting for a chance to fight back. Krylin listened, absorbing the stories like a thirsty man drinking water. We are not alone then. That gives me strength. Their journey was slow. The desert was harsh and unforgiving, with sandstorms and treacherous cliffs. But Krylin's warrior training guided him. Ilara's knowledge of the land kept them safe. One night they camped beneath the stars. The twin moons shone down, casting silver light over the dunes. Ilara looked at Krylin. I have to tell you something. Before you were put to sleep, your allies left a final message, an urgent warning. Krylin's eyes narrowed. What is it? Ilara activated a small device. A hologram appeared, showing a group of people dressed in old uniforms. Their faces were serious and tired. This message was recorded shortly before the final battle, the leader said. The Zalur are not only invading our world, they plan to use your body as a weapon. Your genetic code contains a power they want to unlock. If they succeed, all of humanity could be enslaved. Krylin's expression hardened. They want to use me as a tool against my own people. Ilara's voice was firm. That's why I could not let them find you. We must stop them. Krylin stood, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Then we must hurry. Every second counts. Before they could move, a sudden noise shattered the calm. A low growl, followed by the soft footsteps of approaching figures. Ilara grabbed Krylin's arm. Enemies. They hid behind a rock as a patrol of Zalur soldiers passed nearby, scanning the desert for signs of life. Krylin watched them silently. They are stronger than before, but we have something they do not. Ilara asked quietly. What is that? Krylin smiled slightly. Hope. As the patrol moved on, Ilara and Krylin continued their journey, hearts beating faster, knowing the danger was closer than ever. The mission ahead was clear. Reach the hidden base, unlock the secrets of the past, and prepare to fight a war that had never truly ended. The future of humanity depended on it. The desert wind carried dust and heat as Ilara and Krylin moved steadily through the broken lands. The ruins of an ancient city stretched around them like the bones of a giant long dead. The sky burned orange in the late afternoon, but Krylin's focus was sharp. Every step brought him closer to a future he barely understood, and a past he was beginning to remember. Ilara walked beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon. She carried their supplies carefully, but her thoughts were on the message from Krylin's allies. The hidden base was their only hope, but the path was filled with danger. We must hurry, Krylin said, his voice steady but urgent. The Zalur will not wait. Ilara nodded. They will be searching the ruins soon. We need to find shelter. As they moved forward, Krylin's mind flashed back to the last days before his stasis. He saw the battlefields filled with fire and smoke, heard the cries of soldiers and the roar of alien machines. He remembered the pain in his body, the weight of command, and the promise he made to protect humanity at any cost. Now, those memories were clearer. His strength was returning, not just in body but in spirit. Suddenly, Ilara stopped. Ahead of them lay a small entrance, partially covered by sand and broken stone. It was the hidden door to the old resistance base, the beacon they sought. Krylin stepped forward and brushed away the debris. The door creaked open, revealing a dark tunnel leading underground. This is it, Ilara said quietly. Inside, we will find answers, and maybe allies. They entered the base carefully. The air inside was cool and still, a sharp contrast to the harsh desert. Walls were lined with ancient technology, screens flickering faintly with power still running after centuries. Ilara approached a console and began activating the systems. The room hummed to life, lights glowing and data flowing across the screens. Krylin watched, feeling the pulse of a forgotten time. Then a voice echoed through the chamber. Welcome, Krylin. We have been waiting. The voice came from a hologram that flickered to life. It was a woman, an old commander from the Resistance, her face serious but kind. Krylin, you have been asleep for a long time. The Zollar threat has returned, stronger than ever. But your awakening gives us hope. Ilara and Krylin exchanged a glance. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The hologram continued, showing maps, enemy movements, and secret plans. The Zollar want to use your unique genetic code to unlock a weapon of great power. If they succeed, it will mean the end for all free worlds. Krylin's jaw tightened. Then we must stop them. The commander's image nodded. We have gathered what remains of the resistance, but we need your leadership. Only you can unite the scattered survivors and fight back. Ilara stepped forward. What must we do? The hologram flickered and showed a device, a small, glowing orb. This is the key to the Zollar's technology. It was hidden here for safekeeping. With it, we can disable their main weapon. Krylin reached out, feeling the weight of the task before him. Then we take this device and strike at the heart of their forces. Ilara smiled. Together, we can win. But even as hope filled the room, danger was closing in. The sounds of alien machines echoed from the surface. The Zollar were searching for the base. Krylin grabbed his weapon. We must prepare to defend this place. Ilara checked the base's defenses, old turrets, traps, and barriers still functioning. They set alarms and ready their weapons. Outside, the first signs of an attack appeared. Shadows moved across the ruins, and the sky filled with the hum of engines. Krylin stood at the entrance, his eyes fierce. They think we are weak. They will learn otherwise. The battle began as the Zollar forces stormed the base. Ilara fired her weapon with precision, taking down the first wave of attackers. Krylin fought with the skill of a master warrior, his movements swift and powerful. The base shook with explosions and gunfire, but Ilara and Krylin held their ground. Between attacks, Krylin shouted commands, organizing the defenders. His presence inspired those around him. The scattered survivors rallied, their hope renewed by the warrior who had returned from the past. As the battle raged, Ilara found a quiet moment to speak with Krylin. Your awakening has brought us strength we thought was lost. Krylin looked at her with gratitude. And your courage has kept me alive. Together we can protect what remains. The fight lasted through the night. The Zollar withdrew, battered, but not defeated. As dawn broke, the base was quiet once more. The survivors, gathered tired but alive, Krylin stood before them. This is only the beginning. The Zollar will return, but we will be ready. Ilara placed a hand on his shoulder. We will fight for our future. With new allies and a powerful weapon in hand, Krylin and Ilara prepared for the long war ahead. The past had awakened within them, and with it, the hope of a better tomorrow. The quiet that followed the battle was brief. Ilara and Krylin knew the Zollar would not give up easily. Their enemy was clever, patient, and powerful. The desert held its breath, waiting for the next storm. Inside the resistance base, the survivors worked quickly to repair what was broken. The old machines hummed back to life and plans were drawn on glowing screens. Krylin stood among the people, their eyes filled with hope and fear. He spoke to them, his voice strong. The Zollar will return with more ships, more soldiers. We cannot wait for them to come to us. We must find their command center and stop them before it is too late. Ilara nodded. The device we found can disable their weapon, but we need to get close. Enough. The challenge was clear. The Zollar had set up a fortress deep inside the desert, protected by advanced technology and thousands of soldiers. Krylin studied the maps carefully. We will need a small team to sneak inside. Stealth and speed will be our allies. Volunteers stepped forward, brave men and women who had survived the war and believed in Krylin's leadership. Ilara watched them, proud of their courage. The group prepared quietly. Each member trained, tested their weapons, and memorized the plan. On the night before the mission, Ilara stood beside Krylin under the stars. "Are you ready for this?" Krylin looked up at the sky. "I have waited 500 years for this moment. I will not fail." Ilara smiled softly. "We all believe in you." The next day the team set out. The desert was cold and dark, the moon casting pale light over the sands. They moved carefully, avoiding patrols and traps. Krylin led the way, his senses sharp and his mind focused. The others followed, trusting his experience. As they neared the fortress, they saw the scale of the Zallar's power. Tall walls made of strange metal surrounded the base. Energy shields flickered in the air, guarding against attacks. Ilara checked. The device they carried, the glowing orb from the resistance base. "This must reach their core," she said. "It will shut down their weapon and give us a chance." Krylin nodded. "Then we move quickly." Inside the fortress, danger waited. Zallar guards patrolled the halls, their eyes sharp and their weapons ready. The team moved like shadows, silent and careful. At one point, a guard almost spotted them. Krylin acted fast, disabling the alarm with a quick strike. The group reached a large chamber filled with strange machines and glowing lights. This was the heart of the fortress, the command center. Krylin placed the orb on a control panel. The device began to hum and glow brighter. Suddenly, alarms blared. The Zallar had discovered them. The team prepared for battle. Krylin drew his energy, blade, ready to fight. The doors burst open and Zallar soldiers poured in. Ilara and the others fought fiercely. Blasts of light and sound filled the room as the two sides clashed. Krylin moved with skill and strength, cutting through the enemies. Ilara supported him, taking down attackers with precise shots. Despite the numbers against them, the team held their ground. The orb's glow reached its peak, and the fortress shook. The energy shields flickered and then collapsed. Krylin shouted, "Now, we must leave before they regroup." The team ran through the fortress, escaping just as explosions rocked the building. Outside, they watched as the Zallar's weapon went dark. Their power was broken. The survivors cheered, but Krylin knew the war was far from over. He turned to Ilara. "We have struck a great blow, but the Zallar will return stronger and angrier." Ilara placed her hand on his arm. "Then we will be ready." Back at the resistance base, the team was welcomed as heroes. The hope of victory grew stronger with every success. Krylin stood before the survivors. "This fight is not just for us. It is for all those who dream of freedom." Ilara smiled, feeling the weight of centuries lift from her heart. Together, they had awakened a new future. The desert was still, but beneath the sands, the fires of resistance burned brighter than ever. The days after the strike were filled with preparation. Krylin and Ilara knew the Zallar would not stay silent for long. Their enemy was angry and determined to take back their lost power. The resistance base buzzed with activity. Survivors repaired weapons, built defenses, and shared stories of hope. Krylin moved through the crowd like a leader born for battle. His presence gave strength to the weary and courage to the afraid. Ilara watched him closely. She had spent 500 years protecting him, waiting for this moment. Now she fought by his side, ready to face whatever came. One morning, the alarms sounded. The Zallar fleet was returning, larger and more dangerous than before. Ships darkened the sky, blocking the sun's light. Krylin stood on a ridge overlooking the base. His eyes were sharp, his mind focused. "They are coming to destroy us," he said quietly. "But we will not fall." Ilara joined him. "Our defenses are ready. We have the weapon disabled, but they will still fight fiercely." The survivors gathered, preparing for battle. They checked their weapons, shared quick words of encouragement, and took their positions. Krylin walked through the ranks. "Remember, we fight not just for ourselves, but for all humanity. Stay strong. Stay united." The Zallar ships landed, and their soldiers poured out like a tide of metal and fury. The desert shook with the force of their attack. The battle began. Ilara fired her weapon with skill, taking down enemies one by one. Krylin fought in the thick of it, his energy blade cutting through the chaos. His movements were swift and powerful, a reminder of why he was the warrior of legend. The Zollar used strange machines that blasted energy beams and fired rapid missiles, but the resistance used their knowledge of the land to fight back. They set traps, ambushed the enemy, and moved like shadows. Despite their strength, the Zollar were surprised by the human spirit. Krylin's leadership inspired every fighter to push harder. At one point, the Zollar tried to break through the base's defenses with a giant machine that roared like a beast. Krylin led a team to stop it. They climbed onto the machine, dodging lasers and explosions. Krylin reached its control panel and used his energy blade to cut through the armor. With a final strike, the machine exploded in a burst of light and smoke. The tide of battle turned. The Zollar forces began to retreat, but not without a fight. Ilara and Krylin chased them back to their ships, fighting side by side. When the last enemy ship lifted off, the desert grew silent again. Krylin looked at Ilara. "We have won today, but the war is far from over." Ilara smiled. "Together, we can face anything." The survivors cheered, their hope renewed. That night, around the fires, Krylin spoke to the people. "This battle showed our strength. We are not just survivors, we are fighters. We will rebuild. We will protect our world." Ilara listened, proud and determined. As the stars shone above, a new dawn promised a future where humanity could stand tall once more. The desert was calm, but the air was heavy with promise. After the fierce battle with the Zollar, Ilara and Krylin stood together watching the horizon where the last enemy ships had disappeared into the sky. The war was not over, but for the first time in centuries, hope filled the hearts of those who survived. Krylin looked toward the rising sun. His eyes, sharp and steady, reflected a future he had never thought possible. The warrior who had slept for 500 years now stood ready to lead humanity into a new age. "Ilara," he said softly, "we have fought long and hard, but this is only the beginning. We must rebuild, protect, and prepare for whatever comes next." Ilara nodded. "Together we can do more than just survive. We can thrive." The resistance base was alive with activity. Survivors worked side by side, repairing technology, planting food, and sharing stories of the past and dreams for the future. Krylin walked among them, offering words of encouragement and strength. One by one, more groups of survivors arrived, drawn by the news of the Resistance's victory. The base grew into a stronghold, a symbol of human will and resilience. Krylin and Ilara planned their next moves carefully. The device they had recovered from the Zollar fortress was studied by the best minds, revealing secrets that could turn the tide of war even further. Ilara watched Krylin grow into his role not just as a warrior but as a leader and protector. His presence united people from all walks of life. Late one evening, as the twin moons cast their soft light over the camp, Krylin stood with Ilara on a hill overlooking the desert. The stars above were bright and clear. "We have come far," Krylin said, "but many dangers remain." Ilara smiled. "The past gave us strength. The future gives us hope." They stood together in silence, feeling the weight of their journey and the promise of what was to come. The Zollar would return. That was certain. But humanity was no longer the hunted. With Krylin awakened, and Ilara's courage, they were ready to face the darkness. The story of a warrior's long sleep, a guardian's endless watch, and a people's fight for freedom had become a legend. It was a story of hope, courage, and the power to rise again. As dawn broke, the desert glowed with the light of a new day. For the first time in 500 years, humanity stood tall, and this time, they were ready.